Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will get started here in about 5 minutes. This is our 5-minute countdown. So we'll be going here in just about 5 minutes. Good evening. My name is Tammy Neal. I am a Google certified trainer and I live in North Florida, the part up there. Those of you that have heard me before, I'm going to say it again, the part of North Florida where there are no palm trees. So glad you can join us. This is the third time we're going to do this session, the third and final. At least for now, we'll adapt it in the future for something else, I'm sure. But this is using Google Forms. And the majority of this session is going to be through a screencast. So I'll be sharing my screen, and so you won't see me, you'll just hear me talking through the process. I do have the live chat from the YouTube link open. So if you have anything you would like to share, please don't hesitate to share that with us, and I will respond in kind during our session. So again, I am so glad that you're here and joining us. And so I'm going to go ahead and just get started sharing my screen. Okay, so this is the practice form that we created yesterday in our intro to Google Forms. And so what we're going to do to start with is, and I've asked some folks on the internet to come out and fill some of this out so that way we have a little more data than we had yesterday. So what we're going to do is I want you to start by looking at the responses. Here in the responses, we can see that we have names, we have last names, we have class period. So half of my respondents said that they were in first period. So some folks have answered. We can see all the answers of what they've done and their choices on this. So right now, this is not a quiz. How do we know it's not a quiz? Because we don't see a quiz total, a point total up here at the top. We would see that way up here if this were officially a quiz. So the first thing we're going to do is walk through and remind you from yesterday's session how we do that. And the way that we do that is coming over here to settings. So the gear is the settings, and we're going to go to quizzes, and we're simply going to make this a quiz. And when we do that, our quiz options open up, and we have some things we can choose to do. So we can choose to release the grade immediately after each submission, which means that as soon as a student or a user clicks submit, they get an email that tells them how they did. Or we can choose to release it ourselves at a later time. This is what I like to do because I have some students who are given more extended time on their quizzes, and this allows me not to have kids in the class feeling rushed because other people have already gotten their scores. So this allows me some more control over when those get released, and I'll show you in a little bit that we can actually release those by the individual as well. So, and then we get to decide what the respondent or the user gets to see. Do we let them see which questions they missed? Do we want them to see the correct answers? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I personally always let them see their point values. I want my students to know as they're going through a quiz, if they're stuck on a 1-point question, they may choose to move on and try to work on the harder 4-point questions or 5-point questions and come back to that one. So I want them to be able to make those choices themselves. So I share point values. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save, which is right here. And so now when I come into the questions, as I look at the questions, so this is a form setting, the email address, so there's nothing I can do with that, only because right here in this, I told it to collect responses. Also, I can decide whether anybody gets to just do it once. In this particular case, it really doesn't matter. But if I'm doing a quiz in a classroom, an assessment, I may only want them to be able to do it once. So, and I don't ever let students see the summary charts and text responses, because if they do, then they get to see all of this information, and I don't want them to see what everybody else put. That's my information, so I don't do that. Okay, so see, we have right now, up here in the top, we now have total points 0, because we haven't given any question a point value. So we're going to click on the first question. Notice here there is an option for an answer key. We can put an answer key in here if we wish. First name, I don't ever put an answer key because, you know, I'm not going to list all the kids. So, and I also don't give points for the name, but if you wish, you may do so. Same thing for last name. I don't give points for that as well. Class period, and I'm going to go ahead and give some points here just because all three of them are going to be marked correct. So whichever one you do, they're correct. And if you give me the correct class period, I'm just going to go ahead and give it 5 points just for the sake of our example. Normally, I would not do that, but for the sake of our example, I'm going to do that today. Okay, click off. This is just a title part, so I don't have any points to worry with there. Parts of a seed, I'm going to go to an answer key. I can give an answer feedback if I wish. And I'm going to make this one worth 15 points because that's the big bulk of my quiz. Okay, and I'm going to go back to answer question. And this is a longer text, so this requires me to go back in and look at it myself. It's almost impossible for a student to write the answer exactly the way you would have it. So that's one that you have to manually grade. Okay, for a secret word, so I'm going to come in here to the answer key and add a correct answer. Our secret word is going to be green beans. Okay, and I'm going to add another correct answer with the lowercase. And then I'm going to add one because I may be dealing with students that don't realize that these are two words, and that may or may not be something that I want to grade them on. So if they write it as all lowercase green beans, all one word, I may be wanting to give them that response. So I'm going to mark all other answers. If it's not one of these, I'm going to mark everything else incorrect. And this is I'm going to make this one worth 5 points. So now my quiz is worth a possible 25. And then second period only for this one, I'm going to go to my answer key. What color are the chairs in the classroom? Blue, lowercase blue, green, lowercase green. All other answers incorrect. And I'm also going to make that worth 5 points. So now my total points are up to 30. Okay, so my total quiz is up to 30 points. Okay, so we have now set question values. We can choose, like I said earlier, oh, not there, right here, in general, limit their response to one response if we wish. We have it set to collect email addresses. And in the quiz options, we have it set to review manually later. And we have chosen what students can see. Those are all important things to set before you send out a quiz, before you make this a gradable quiz. Okay? So, like I said, if anybody has any questions, please pop it in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer that. Okay? So we're going to move on. So there are two places that you can see your data. You can see the data inside the form itself. Okay, so you can see a summary. You can see by the individual question. Okay, you can see by the individual who took the quiz. And you can cycle through each one, just like you can cycle through each of the questions. Okay. Or you can push this green button right here. And I've already set this up, but if you click this green button, it's going to allow you to create a Google Sheet that collects all of your data. And it's loading all of that data up for us as we speak. And so here's all the information that we have, and I'm just going to go ahead right in here, and I'm going to hide that column because some folks have put their email addresses in there and want to make sure that they're taken care of. So I want to say thank you to those of you that have jumped in and did this for me. I really appreciate that. So we get the data both within forms and within sheets. what we're going to look at today are some add-ons. Specifically, these 4. Auto Mastery, Form Notification, Form Publisher. I actually have it twice. They revamped it and they got a new address, and therefore I can't get rid of the old one right this minute. So that's okay. And Form Limiter. So these are the ones we're going to be looking at today. So we're going to start with Form Limiter. So I'm going to click right here. Well, to find add-ons, you need to go to the 3 dots, come down to Add-ons, and you can search for it, Form Limiter, right there in the add-ons. Now, notice mine says Manage because I've already added it on. If it didn't, it would say Free, and you would click it and you'd be able to add this in. So, Form Limiter is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. It's going to ask me if I want to set a limit. Now, you may actually get a notice that says, do you want to run the script? If you've already added the add-on and you trust the place that you've gotten the add-on from, then you should be able to trust that script. Okay, so Form Limiter is running. It'll pop up here in just a second. Unless I accidentally clicked. There we go. Unless I accidentally click cancel, which is always possible. We're running a little slow tonight, so just bear with us. So there are 3 types of ways that Form Limiter can limit your form. In other words, limit access to your form. Excuse me there for a second. So the 3 ways are by date and time. So you can choose a specific date and a specific time. Once you pick the date, then you can select a specific time, PM set, and it will automatically turn off the form for you. So you don't have to remember that you forgot to turn off that form at the end of the day. You can set it and forget it, and it'll take care of it for you. And so all of those students that took it, weren't there at school or whatever, if they tried to do it from home or in a situation where you didn't want them to, they would get this message, which you can edit and put text in that message, any kind of text that you wish. Okay. The other one that you can use is number of form responses. So it must be a whole positive number. Okay. Anything you can say, if I want the top 10 responses to this question, the first 10, then it will close after that. And the other one is using a spreadsheet cell value. Because we have our spreadsheet, we can go until a certain cell has a certain value. So if we wanted to have something that ran a total for us, we could go until that total had a specific value. Okay. And again, once we reach that value, we can close this form automatically and not have to deal with that. So that's Form Limiter. It's available for free, and it is really helpful, especially when you're running lots of different forms or you're differentiating your instruction and you don't want to leave things open. It really does help when you when you start managing lots of things. So that's that add-on. The next one we're going to do is something I just found recently within the last month, but it really, really does. It has just blown my mind. And that is Auto Mastery. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn on Auto Mastery. I'm going to configure it so that you can walk through with me. So what Auto Mastery does is it allows you to set 3 different levels of assessment: the beginning assessment, the beginner, the progressor, and the one who needs extension, the one who's mastered it. And so based on their score from your form or your quiz, it can send them to 3 different places. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we can now differentiate based on a score without us having to go in and gather all that data. So the students would get an email and it would say your next assignment is, and that can be a link to a Google Doc. It could be a link to a YouTube video. It could be a link to anything on the internet that you want it to link to. So if you wanted them to go to a practice site, you could link the beginners to a practice site. If you wanted them to do an extension project, you could link them to that project so that, it could even be one of those Google Docs where it's auto-copied and they have their own copy to start doing their work in. That's so powerful. So in this case, what we're going to do is I set the mastery score to be 25. If you've gotten 25, and I'm going to adjust that. I'm going to make that down to 20 because in these 2 questions right here, you only get one of these if you're in period 1 or if you're in period 2. So even though I have a 30-point total, my quiz really isn't 30 points. It's really 25. Okay? And so at the same time, if they make 10 or less, I want them to be considered a beginner. And if they make 11 to 20, they are progressing. And if they make higher than 20, then they are mastering and going into the extension assignment. So you can compose your quiz completion message. You can add a link, any web address for any one of these. Yes, they could all be the same, but then what would be the point in that? You can turn on this by doing that. You could you can get a copy of these emails yourself so that you know what you sent to each of the students. So it wouldn't be like you just sent it blind. And so this allows you to then customize for each of your participants. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Like I said, this one to me is super, super powerful. And if you're listening through the YouTube link, the live chat is active. Feel free to pipe in there. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that I can answer while I'm here. Or shoot me up with an email, tammygneal@gmail.com later, and I'll be happy to answer them there as well. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to show you is really, really simple, but really, really powerful. This is called form notifications. I'm going to configure notifications. Have you ever had a form that you wanted to know if people were actually using it? That's what form notification does. It sends you an email and says, hey, this many people have answered your form. And so if you wanted to know every time 5 people have answered it, you could set it to 5. If you want to know every time 1 person has answered it, you can set it to 1. The default is 10, but it's really, really cool in making sure that you are aware of the activity that's going on with your forms. So I do this as well, especially for things that I send out to the interwebs. That way it helps me remember that I have something active out there. So do I want to be notified? Notify me. I can put a comma here and add however many people I need to make sure my entire team knows what's being filled out. And that becomes very, very powerful when we all get the same notice. A couple of years ago, I had a form that I put out just so my students could see how truly connected and how easy it was to connect with people around the world. And we set it to, I think it was 25. And when I come back into school the next day, I said, listen, guys, we're going to up this number because I got 3 messages. So we're up to 75 already. So we upped the number. And they were really cool that they could see how this was happening. Do we want to notify the respondents? So we can say, notify the folks that have filled it out by thanking them for filling it out. Okay? So that's what form notification does. That allows us to Just be courteous with one another, which is so useful in today's society. And the last but not least is Forms Publisher. And this saved my settings, so I can go ahead and close that out. Form Publisher to me is an introduction to, and see, it's asked me to run the updated add-on. And I'm going to run it from my, maybe I got the wrong one. Let me check the other one now. Form Publisher. Let me try this one. Get started. Yep, I got the wrong one the first time. Like I said, they updated it and they discontinued the first one, but I haven't been able to get it off of my system yet. So it should be popping up any second now. And we're going to try this one more time. If it doesn't, get started. Ooh, wonder what's going on. Let's try this again. Okay, so this is Form Publisher old. This is not the one that I need. The one that I need is this one. Get started and let's see. Script function not found. They must be doing some updates. Let me come out here to Add-ons and click Form Publisher and Manage using this document. Actually, I'm going to remove this one for a second, and then I'm going to add it back in and see if it lets me add it back in. Okay, we got this. There we go. Now we've got it. I just had to reload it. Not a biggie. But what Forms Publisher does is it allows us to create templates from the form automatically. And we can create our own and select a file from the template here as well. But if you haven't ever created a form before, a mail merge, you can use something that they create for you. So I'm just going to click a pre-formatted template, and it's going to go out and look at my form. And it's doing its little thing. Okay, so it created a template, and I can edit that template if I would like. So here's my template. I could come in, and if I wanted to put some extra spaces here, I could put some extra spaces here. Remember, this is a Google Doc, so everything that we make, all the changes we make are automatically saved. This template is automatically generated. Feel free to personalize it however we wish to personalize this. Okay, so I'm good with this, so I'm just going to close that out. I'm going to click Next. Okay, and it's going to generate a title. Do I want to keep the file URL in my spreadsheet? Do I want to throw that spreadsheet name there? Sure. Keep a copy of the PDF in the file. Okay, what do I want to send the respondent? I want to send them a PDF, but I can also send them a Google Doc. What do I want? And I can also remove them from this and send them nothing. Notify form respondent, send them a PDF. Email set, I can separate the emails and click Next. My form is ready, so I'm going to try the form. I'm in period 3. Yep. That's a seed. Because I really don't need to answer it because we're just practicing. And I'm going to submit. I'm going to come back here. And it will show me in Google Drive the output that's being created from that form. So these are the template that we generated earlier. And then here's the first PDF that's been created. It's going to take a little time. We've had some rain today, so the internet is a little slower than I would like sometimes out here in the country, but that's okay. Here we go. Loading the document. So this was automatically generated. And we can see what this person answered. Okay, so these are all being generated from the form. Automatically, I don't have to do anything with it. Okay, if I wanted to see the emails, I could see the email that went out with it as well. So those are the add-ons that I like to use frequently. We'll be back at 8 o'clock tonight, and I will be going over Autocrat, which is also similar to Form Publisher, but instead of it being automatic, Autocrat requires you to create your own template. So it's a little more advanced, but it's still not difficult. It's very easy to do. I encourage you to, go find some add-ons, play around with them. If you would like to share information with me, ask questions, again, I'm going to throw my email address in the show notes, in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions. I'm always here, ready to help any way that I can help. So I do appreciate you being with us tonight, and we'll see you again at 8 o'clock. So until then, I hope you have a great evening. Thank you for joining me.